8 months after I buried my husband, a letter came telling me that my house had become $400 a month more expensive. Nothing about the house had changed. Same roof, same furnace with the rattle in it, same crack in the driveway that Gordon kept saying he would patch. Our payment had been $1,412 for years. The letter said that beginning the 1st of August, it would be $1,815. Slow. I read it standing at the kitchen counter with my coat still on. Annual escrow account disclosure statement. Shortage of $1,911. Hazard insurance premium, $3,844. My insurance is $1,391. I had the declarations page in the drawer 6 feet from where I was standing, and at the top of the page, in small gray type, there was a loan number that was not my loan number. Mine ends in 4419. That one ended in 7702. Deep breath. I want to be careful how I tell you this, because for a long time I got it wrong, and I got it wrong loudly, and I was very proud of myself while I was doing it. There was a detail on that first page that did not fit, and I noticed it inside of 90 seconds. And then I spent 11 weeks explaining it away, because it was in the road of the story I wanted to tell. My name is Marion. I am 64. I spent 22 years at the front desk of a dental practice on Delmar Avenue, which mostly meant I argued with insurance companies about other people's teeth. I know what an institutional error looks like. I know the sound a person makes on the telephone when they have decided you are going to give up. My husband Gordon died on the 9th of October. He was 67. He came in from the garage, sat down in the chair by the window to take his boots off, and did not get up. We had lived in that house on Fernhill Road for 26 years. It was in his name alone, which sounds strange now, but was not strange then. Back in 2004, he had a small contracting outfit that went bad on him, and a lawyer told us to put the house in one name to keep it away from anything that came after him. We meant to put it back. We never did. It is one of those things that stays undone for 20 years because nothing bad happens. Firm. So, the letter. I did what I have always done. I picked up the telephone and I went to war. The company is Merivale Loan Servicing, the fourth outfit to hold our mortgage, and they hold it the way you hold a suitcase at an airport, without any interest in what is inside. The first woman I spoke to was named Kayla, and she was perfectly nice. I told her the escrow statement had the wrong insurance premium on it. She read me the same figure back. I said I have a policy with Wexford Mutual for $13.91. I'm looking at it right now. She put me on hold for 19 minutes and came back and said she showed a lender-placed policy effective the 1st of June. I said, "Lender-placed means you bought insurance for me." She said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "Why would you do that when I already have insurance?" She said the file shows no evidence of coverage. Emphasized, no evidence of coverage. I had mailed them the declarations page in February. I had the certificate of mailing in the drawer. I told her that. She said she was not showing it received. Then she said the words that shaped the next 2 months of my life. She said, "Ma'am, that documentation may have been applied to your other loan." I said, "What other loan?" And she said, "I am not able to see that account from here." Pause. There it was. On day 1, 15 minutes into the first telephone call. And I heard it, and I put it down, and I walked right past it, because I had already decided what this was. You have to understand what I decided. I decided that a servicing company had scrambled 2 customers together and was now charging a widow $400 a month for their own error, betting that a woman on her own would just pay it. That story fit everything I knew about the world. It fit 22 years of insurance companies telling me a crown was cosmetic. And it made me feel like somebody instead of what I actually was that spring, which was a woman who set 2 plates at supper for 4 months. So the other loan became, in my head, the other customer. Some poor soul whose file had been stapled to mine. The one small thing that did not fit was, to me, the whole evidence of the scheme. I was so sure. I cannot make you understand how sure I was. I started a call log in a spiral notebook. Date, time, name, employee number, what was promised, 81 entries. I learned that, under the federal rules, I could send a notice of error and a request for information, and that they had 30 days to answer. I filed complaints with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the State Department of Banking. I bought a 2-inch binder and labeled the dividers in my good handwriting, and that binder is still on the shelf, and I cannot look at it without my face going hot. The request for information came back in 29 days. 70-some pages of payment history and escrow disbursements going back 6 years, which is as far as their system went. I sat down with it on a Sunday with a highlighter, the way I used to sit down with a denied claim. And the disbursements were wrong, not wrong the way I expected. There were 2 insurance payments in some years. One to Wexford Mutual, $1,300 and something, which was mine. And another one, $412, every March, to something called Anchor Assurance Group. $412 every March for 6 straight years. Wexford told me plainly they had no relationship with Anchor. Anchor said they could not discuss a policy without the number and the named insured, and when I gave my name, they said they had no record of me. Dramatic. No record of me. And they had been taking money out of my escrow account every March since 2019. That was the week I stopped sleeping. There is a particular kind of 2 in the morning that belongs to women who live alone in houses that are too big for them, and I got to know it very well. My daughter Tess called from Denver and told me to just pay it. I said it was the principal. She said the principal was going to give me a stroke. She was not wrong, but she also did not have to open the mail. The mail. I have to tell you about the mail because it is the worst part. Quiet. After Gordon died, I could not open anything addressed to him. The bank statements, the fishing magazine, the notices from the county, anything with Gordon T. Cadell in the window. I would carry it in from the box, and my hand would simply not do it. So I put those envelopes in a copy paper box in the closet and told myself I would go through them when I was stronger. And by June, that box had 4 inches of paper in it. I have talked to enough widows now to know that box is very common. But there were 3 envelopes in it from an institution called Tri-County Federal Credit Union, dated in February, March, and April, and if I had opened the first one, this would have been a 2-week story instead of an 11-week one. I did not open them until the end of July, and by then I already knew. Here is how I got there. At the beginning of July, I paid $250 for 1 hour with a lawyer named Everett Small, who listened to me for 11 minutes without saying anything. Then, he took off his glasses and asked whether I had pulled the recorded documents on my property. I said I did not know what that meant. He said, "Go to the county recorder, ask for everything recorded against your parcel, and bring it back to me." He said, "If there are 2 loan numbers, there may be 2 loans." He said it kindly. He was not enjoying it. I remember being annoyed. I remember thinking, this man is not listening, and I have paid him to send me to a basement. Slow. The recorder's office in Ashfield County smells like a photocopier that has been running since 1980. A woman behind the counter typed my address and turned her monitor a little so I could see. There were 4 documents against the parcel: the deed from 1999, the mortgage from 1999, a release from 2006, and a deed of trust recorded on the 12th of March, 2019, in the amount of $96,000 in favor of Tri-County Federal Credit Union, granted by Gordon T. Cadell, a married man dealing in his sole and separate property. Gasp, I said out loud. That is not right. She printed it for me at $2 a page, 9 pages, paid in quarters. I sat in my car in the courthouse parking lot for a long time. And what I felt was not what you would think. It was relief, ferocious relief, because now it was not a clerical mess, it was fraud. Somebody had put a lien on my house using my dead husband's name, and every strange thing on that escrow statement was suddenly one clean story. For 8 days, I was absolutely certain that my husband's identity had been stolen. I even had a face for the man. I gave him a strip mall office and a stack of cards. Warm. Then I went to the credit union on Delmar Avenue, 4 doors down from the dental office where I worked for 22 years, because that is where the deed of trust said the loan was made. The woman who came out to the little side room was named Adele Pruitt, and she had a coffee cup with a bird on it. I put my 9 pages on the table and I said, "This loan is fraudulent, my husband never took it, and I would like to know who authorized it." She read the first page. Then she stopped, and she looked at me, and her whole face changed, and she said, "Oh, oh, honey." She said, "I remember him. He came in on a Tuesday," she said. "He had all his documents in a manila envelope with a rubber band around it. He knew what he wanted before he sat down. He did not want a line of credit. He wanted a fixed term, because he said a line was too easy to keep pulling from." Then she pulled the file and turned the application around so I could read the purpose line. "Family medical expenses." I said, "Whose?" And Adele Pruitt looked at her coffee cup and said, "I am not permitted to tell you that." Sad. She did not have to. I had known since the parking lot, in the place where you know things before you let yourself have them. Because there is only one person in this world Gordon would have gone quiet for. And it is the one person I told him I would never spend another cent on. Let me back up, because you need the rest of it. My sister June is 6 years younger than me. Everyone has always called her Junie. She married a man named Lyle Frayne when she was 22, against everyone's advice. In 2011, our mother's money disappeared. Ada had a little over $60,000 from selling the house on Coburn Street, and Junie held the power of attorney because she lived 4 miles away and I lived 3 hours away. By the time our mother died in the fall of 2016, there was $409 in the account. Gordon and I paid for the funeral, which we could not afford either. Junie would not explain it. Not at the hospital, not at the funeral home, not for 5 years. She would go gray in the face and say, "I will pay it back, Marion," and change the subject, and I took that for what it looked like. Emphasized. And on the day of our mother's funeral, in the parking lot of St. Brendan's, with the cars still coming in, I said a sentence to my husband that I would give the rest of my life to take back. I said, "I will not spend another cent on that woman as long as I live." I meant it the way you mean things at a funeral, which is to say, I meant it entirely for about 4 days. Gordon did not answer me. He put his hand flat on my back for a second, and then he opened the car door for me. He never brought it up again, not once in 8 years. I thought that was him being kind. In November of 2018, Junie had a stroke. She was 54. It took the whole left side of her, and most of her speech for a while. And it did not take her mind, which people want to believe it did because that would be easier. Junie knows exactly where she is and exactly what has happened to her. That is the cruelty of it. In March of 2019, she was moved into Ridgeview Care Center out on the county road past Loudoun because there was nowhere else that would take her at that level of need. I did not go. Quiet. I want to say it flat and not decorate it. My sister moved into a nursing home at 54 years old, and I did not go. And I did not go the next month either. And after a while, not going becomes the thing you do. So there I am in a credit union side room with a woman holding a bird cup, and the arithmetic starts to arrive. Adele Pruitt could not tell me anything more, but she did say one thing that was not confidential. She said the notary on that deed of trust was Sylvan Boyce, that he was retired now, but still living out on Kettleman Road, and that notaries keep journals. Sylvan Boyce is 79 and lives in a low brick house with a carport converted entirely into shelving for file boxes. He made me instant coffee I did not want and found the right book in under 4 minutes, which he was very pleased about. Entry 4471. The 12th of March, 2019. Gordon T. Cadell. Deed of trust. Thumbprint in the little square. And in the column at the right, where a notary can write a remark, Sylvan had written 4 words in pencil. Asked about spousal notice. Deep breath. I asked him what that meant. He said he writes down the odd ones. And then he sat back and said, "I remember this one. Your husband asked me whether his wife had to be told. Not whether she had to sign. Whether she had to be told." And Sylvan Boyce said, "I told him no, not on a property held in his name alone. And he said thank you, and he shook my hand. And he went out and sat in his truck in my driveway for about 20 minutes before he drove away. Softly, 20 minutes. In a stranger's driveway. My husband sat there for 20 minutes deciding, and then he started the truck. I went home and I opened the copy paper box. 3 envelopes from Tri-County Federal Credit Union. February, March, April. All 3 said the same thing in slightly stronger language each time. Evidence of hazard insurance naming Tri-County Federal Credit Union as loss payee had not been received. If evidence was not provided, insurance would be placed on the borrower's behalf at the borrower's expense. In February, when the Wexford policy came up for renewal, I had reissued it in my own name and listed the mortgage holder I knew about. There was no reason on God's earth for me to list a credit union I had never heard of. That is the whole mechanism of it. There was no scheme and no scrambled file, and no man in a strip mall office. There was a second loan on my house, secured by an insurance requirement I could not satisfy because I did not know the loan existed. And when it went unmet, a computer bought me a policy at 3 times the price, and Merivale, who serviced both loans, sent me a letter. $403 a month, the cost of insuring a debt I had never heard of, and the $412 every March to Anchor Assurance Group was a small-term life policy Gordon took out on himself the same week he signed, so that if anything happened to him, the debt would not land on me. Sad, it paid out. $25,000 in December, applied to a principal balance I did not know I had. He had sat in a truck in a stranger's driveway and thought about all of it, including dying, and the only thing he could not think his way around was telling me. Then I found the rest, and the rest was in the garage. Gordon repaired small engines out there. It was pocket money, and he kept a separate account for it that he called the shop account, and I had never once looked at it in 31 years. The same way he never looked in my nightstand. The statements were in a green tackle box on the shelf above the bench, under 2 trays of screws. 76 monthly transfers to Ridgeview Care Center. $1,150 each, starting the 15th of March, 2019. The most recent was in June, 3 weeks before I found the box, because the automatic transfer had gone right on running after he died. And the loan payment, $786, out of that same account on the 1st of every month. Also still running. There was $4,000 and change left in it. Enough for 2 more months. Dramatic. 2 more months. That is what I was standing on and did not know. I sat down on the concrete floor of the garage next to my husband's bench and did the arithmetic on the back of a shop statement. The deed of trust was recorded on the 12th of March, 2019. Junie was admitted to Ridgeview on the 14th of March, 2019. 2 days. Pause. 2 days apart. And I had been staring at March for 6 weeks. March was on every page of that escrow history. Anchor Assurance, every March. The disbursement history started in March. The whole shape of the thing was built around 1 month, and I had read it as a billing cycle. Coincidence that precise is not coincidence. It is a sentence with the subject taken out. I called Ridgeview the next morning. A woman in billing named Delphine, who I had never spoken to in my life, said, "Oh, Mrs. Cadell, we have been trying to reach the family since May. Junie's own money ran out in the winter of 2019. There had been a settlement from the divorce and a small policy, and skilled nursing at that level is $5,200 a month, and it went the way money goes. Her benefits cover most of it. There has been a shortfall of $1,150 a month for 6 years and 4 months. I said, "Who has been paying that?" Delphine said, "The responsible party on the account is G. Cadell. He set it up in person. He asked us to code it as a family assistance account and not to put his name on anything that went into her room. She said he told them his wife took care of the arrangements, and he did not want to confuse things. He gave them a lie that made me look generous. For 6 years, in a filing cabinet where nobody would ever read it." Then she said, "And he came the first Tuesday of every month. He would sign in about 10 and stay an hour. He always brought butterscotch discs in the yellow wrapper." She said, "We assumed you knew." I drove out to Ridgeview on a Thursday in the last week of July. It is 19 minutes past the reservoir. I had made that not going into a whole architecture, and it is 19 minutes. Junie is in room 14. Her hair is white now, and she wears it short because it is easier for the aides. Her left hand sits in her lap like something she is holding for somebody else. She looked at me in the doorway for a long moment. Then she said, "Well?" I said, "Hello, Junie." She said, "You look old," softly. And I laughed. God help me. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. And then I was not laughing anymore. And she reached over with her right hand and held onto my wrist and did not say anything at all while I got through it. When I could talk, I told her about the loan. All of it. The credit union, the deed of trust, the notary, the tackle box. She listened with her head turned slightly the way she does now. And when I finished, she said, "I knew it was not the state." I said, "What?" She said, "The state does not bring butterscotch." She had known someone was paying. She had assumed, for 6 years, that it was me, doing it silently, because I did not want to speak to her, and she had decided she deserved that, and she had never once asked, because she was afraid that if she asked it would stop. Sad two women, 19 minutes apart, both of us punished by the same silence, and the man who built it thought he was being kind. And then I had to tell her that Gordon was dead. Nobody had. It had been 9 months. She had spent 9 first Tuesdays waiting for a man who did not come, and she had decided he had finally taken my side. I'm not going to describe that part. It is hers. Somewhere in that hour, she told me about the money, finally, because there was no reason left not to. Lyle had gotten into the tax man for a great deal, and there was a lien coming on the house they lived in, and she moved our mother's money to stop it, and meant to put it back, and then he lost the rest of it, and then she was 51 years old with nothing and could not make her mouth say it to me. She said Gordon knew. She told him at the hospital in 2018, on a bad night, and she made him promise. He kept it while I said what I said in the church parking lot, and for 8 years after, and I understand now that he was not protecting Junie from me. He was protecting me from being a woman who had said that sentence about a sister who had been cornered. He thought that if he just kept paying, quietly, none of us would ever have to be who we were that day. Firm. It was the plan of a man who would rather carry $96,000 on his own back than have one difficult conversation in his own kitchen. I loved him for 31 years, and I am angrier at him than I have ever been at anybody, and both of those are true at the same time. Here is how it came out, because I do not believe in ending these things nicely. I could not carry it. First mortgage, second lien, Ridgeview, and a payment that had gone up $403 a month. I sold the house on Fernhill Road in October, a year to the week after he died. The second lien balance was $79,000. The first was $46,000. I walked away with a little under $70,000 and no house. I rent the ground floor of a 2-family on Alder Street now, 2 rooms and a porch. I have applied for the county waiver for Junie, which has a waiting list of about 14 months, and until it comes through, the $1,150 comes out of what is left of the house. That is the arithmetic. He borrowed against the house to keep her there. I sold the house to keep her there. Between us, we spent everything we had, 6 years apart, on the same $1,150 a month, and if he had told me in March of 2019, we would have had 6 more years and a whole other set of choices. I go out on the first Tuesday, 10 o'clock. I bring the butterscotch in the yellow wrapper, and I sign the book under his name, which is still on the page from June, 4 lines up, in his terrible handwriting. Slow now. The thing I actually came to tell you. There is always one small thing that does not fit. In every one of these, including whatever one you're in right now, there is a detail sitting off to the side that will not line up, and the temptation is enormous to sand it down, because your explanation is very nearly perfect, and this one thing is spoiling it. Mine was not the $400. It was not the insurance premium or the shortage, and it was not even the loan number ending in 7702, although that one was standing in the road waving at me from the first 90 seconds. emphasized. Mine was a month. It was March. The escrow disbursements began in March. The $412 went out every March. The deed of trust was recorded on the 12th of March. And my sister was carried through the doors of Ridgeview on the 14th of March. And I have always known that date, because it was the day I decided I was not going. Two things that begin in the same week are not two things. A billing cycle can start in any month. A tax year, a policy term, a fiscal calendar. They land where they land. But when a number starts moving in the exact week that a person's life changes, that is not an accounting artifact. That is a cause standing next to its effect, with the arrow taken out from between them. Every fact I needed was in my hands in June. I did not assemble it until the end of July, because I had already chosen the villain, and the facts that fit him got a highlighter, and the facts that did not got an explanation. Deep breath. So if a piece of paper comes to your house and something on it is wrong, do one thing before you do anything else. Before the phone calls and the binder and the certified mail, find the detail that does not fit. Then find its date. And then ask yourself what else in your life was happening that same week, and be honest about the answer, even if the answer is a person you have decided not to think about. Because the wrong small thing is almost never a mistake. It is usually the only part of the page that is trying to tell you the truth. Gordon sat in a stranger's driveway for 20 minutes, with a signed deed of trust on the seat beside him. I do not think he was working up his nerve to do it. I think he had already done it, and he was working up his nerve to come home and say nothing, which he then did every evening for 2,040 days. I would have said yes. That is the part that will not let me alone. If he had come in that night and said, "Marion, it is $1,150 a month, and it is Junie," I would have been ugly about it for a week, and then I would have said yes, because I am not the woman I was in that parking lot, and he should have known that. But I said the sentence. He was standing right there when I said it. And he believed me, which is the only thing in this entire story that was ever really my fault. Junie and I do not talk about him much. We talk about our mother, mostly, and the house on Coburn Street, and a dog we had in 1971 that bit the milkman. Last month, when I was leaving, she said, "First Tuesday." And I said, "First Tuesday." That is all we say now. It is not forgiveness, and it is not restitution. There is nobody left to pay. It is just a small thing that happens on a fixed date, every month, without anybody explaining it to anybody. Quiet. I suppose I learned that from my husband.